Hey everybody, before I get started with this video, there was a few things that we missed about the gatekeeper that need to be noted. One was her occupation. She told us that she was a psychologist for marital issues, and she also said that she was a psychologist or psychiatrist, whichever, for demonic possessions, which was another very bizarre thing. Like, this is the thing that she told us. That was her job, and she said she worked for the government. Oh, and also the fact that the whole time that we were out there on the property for the 3 days of 72 hours, she was always in like this negative state, kind of worried that something bad may happen with whatever was going to come out of the portal, or the aliens were going to come there and maybe hurt her in some kind of way. Whereas myself and Tenten were comfortable. We literally felt no fear. There was nothing that we felt was negative while we're out there. Now keep in mind, this is a place where we've never been before. This is out of our element. And this is a place that the gatekeeper swears that she owns the place and that she spends a lot of time out there at night by herself. But here she is with both of us out there with all these guns that she has. Just she gives off that fear about her and stuff. And the other thing we forgot to mention too was the bumps in the night, right? Like the first day that we got there, the ladies left and went in town while I was still out there, a little bit getting closer to the evening, and I heard a knock on my, well, not a knock, but a sound like this that hit the side of my van. I thought, okay, maybe a bird flew over and dropped an acorn or something that hit the top of the van, or like somebody threw a rock at the van, and which nobody could out there. And then I felt a big shove up against the van, like huge. And then I went out and I looked immediately, and there was nothing around. And you guys have already seen the area and kind of seen, if you watch the video, you can see that there's no way anybody could just sneak up on you. It just doesn't work like that, let alone there's nobody for miles out there. I wasn't afraid. I just said, hey, it's trying to tell me that, hey, we're here and we know you're here it was a kind of a connection, which I felt fine with. The next night, that happened to both the ladies in their vehicles, and Tenten didn't care about it. She said the same thing. She was fine. She's just like, yeah, whatever. But the gatekeeper, when it happened to her, she was afraid, and she was ready to shoot something. So that's some of the other things that we missed when we were talking here in the video. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get started because time's running short. Hey, what's up everybody? Radx here, and I have on the phone with me right now is Tenten.
Hey everybody.
So anyhow, today we are going to be talking about the other person that was at the site when we went out to Utah, and we're just going to use her nickname because we don't want to actually use her name for obvious reasons, and we're just going to call her the Gatekeeper. Although she wanted to be called the Protector or some crap like that, but she's not a protector. She's just the gatekeeper, and me and Tenten have pretty much figured that out. But before we get started into that, because I know you guys want to hear about all that stuff and you want to hear more things about what happened with the portal, but before we get started with that, there is another event that happened with me and Tenten about 4 nights ago. And actually, I'm going to post a picture of the text message so you guys can see the text message that she sent me. She sent me a message in the morning, like about four days ago, and she said that she had this dream that she was, standing in front of me. And I'm gonna let her tell you about her dream, and then I'm gonna tell you guys what I told her later on, what happened to me that night.
So I was dreaming, at least I think I was, and all of a sudden I was standing in front of Radx. All I could see was his face in the room. It was very bright. It was white. The floor was white, just based upon like my peripheral vision, how he was leaning forward. Our faces were very close to each other. He wasn't really himself. He wasn't really, he was a little out of it. Something drew me to his eyes, so I just was staring into his eyes, and all of a sudden his eyes changed color to like a greenish brown. His pupils, instead of being circular, they turned into, I guess, like cylinders, or like an oval type shape, or something to that nature. And I said to him, hey, your eyes are changing. And, if you guys had talked, obviously if you heard Rat Talk on his channel. He's very quick, you know, and in his responses, and he's a fast talker. And in this instance, he wasn't. He was very like slow and lethargic. And he was like, "What's wrong with my eyes?" And I'm like, "Your eyes are changing." And there was nothing I could really. I felt like there was nothing in the room that I could give him to show him his eyes. And in the morning, I felt compelled, like after I had the dream or this experience, I really can't call it a dream. I know it wasn't. This experience, I just texted him and I was like, "Hey, you know, listen, I had this dream about you and your eyes. You know, they changed." I'm not really exactly sure what I said in specific. I know, Rat, you have the text message.
Yeah.
And I just left it at that.
So anyhow, yeah, so here's the thing. I don't know if I've said it yet in the videos. I keep making a bunch of videos and stuff, and I just don't post them. I get to start editing them, and then I just get discouraged. I'm just like, you know, I don't know if anything's helping, if anything's getting through to the rest of the humans. I don't know if they're understanding, you know, what's happening and they're listening to stuff. But I know I've said before that I'm changing, and it's bizarre, it's weird. And somebody today said something, made a comment today in 1010 doesn't know about this, she's hearing about it now. I was talking to somebody today and they said something about being a snowflake, and I said, you know what, I'll trade places with anybody. If they think what's going on with me is like something that is something that I've kind of dreamt about or always wanted to happen. I was not a UFO watcher. I was not into the alien stuff. This is nothing that I would have brought upon myself or wished upon myself. That's what I said. I said I'd like to see them, you know, be me, because I'm definitely a man on an island here. And of course, 1010's like on the other island waving at me, because first of all, she's all the way in Florida and I'm all the way here. But so it's definitely something weird happening to me. I feel like I've been changing and stuff. And then later that day, actually when she texted me, and then I called her back actually later on, and we were talking, and she told me about, she said something about it in text, and I didn't really put the two and two together, and I don't think she did either. But I told her, I said, you know, my arms are freaking killing me. I'm like, I don't know what happened to me last night. And I said, I think that maybe I was abducted or something, and maybe it was the reptilians, and they're just not really. And you'd imagine that the reptilians are probably not as gentle as maybe like the Greys are. They probably just maybe knock you around a little bit, not being jerks, but just kind of just how they are. They're just not very kosher in that way. But that's what I told her. I said, my arms feel like they've been ripped out of sockets, and I was in excruciating pain. And she'll tell you, didn't I tell you like all day long, literally it shut me down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all day.
All day. I couldn't do it.
I was just like my arms.
I was in pain all day long, and I literally couldn't do anything. Now, here's the thing, guys. I didn't do anything strenuous in like the past 3 or 4 days before that, like nothing. I wasn't training in martial arts. I didn't even go to the gym. I wasn't doing anything. In fact, I was working on videos and just watching, you know, doing more research and stuff. So then later on in the day, also I noticed like the roof of my mouth was really, really sore. Like felt like something jammed into the roof of my mouth, not into my throat, but the roof of it. So later on that day, I was telling her, you know, me and her were talking back and forth, and we were talking about this thing, and I said, you know, I swear I think I was abducted or something last night. Like they got me, and I'm like, I wasn't even in a normal place that I'd normally be at anyhow. I was like completely in some place new and everything. And I was like, I feel like, you know, they got me, they abducted me last night or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put the two and two together. I don't know if it was 1010 who said it first, or if it was me, but I think she may have said I was there, and that's what that was. It wasn't a dream. And she told me that she texted me that before I told her that I felt like I was abducted. She told me that she saw me, and you've never said that ever. The last time that you said that you saw me that you were in a room with me and you saw something happen to me was when we were talking about the thing that happened to me in 2017. Have you ever at any other time before, in between at that time, 4 days ago, ever felt like you were in a room with me and saw something happen to me?
No, Mm-mm.
So we're talking about, this is a rare thing. It's rare. And the only reason why I was able to piece more things together about the Draconian that came and visit me in 2017, the only reason why you were involved and invited to go to Utah to find the portal, which you had to be there, obviously, because when I said, you're the navigator, find the way in, you did something that I would not have done, which helped point the way to the portal. And the only reason any of those things happened, or all cause and effect, was because you told me that you were in the room that night when the first time I had the alien experience. And then now I felt like I was being abducted, and in the morning you tell me before I even tell you anything, and you send me a text message, which tells me to believe what you're saying here, because in all this time you haven't ever said that, and then I tell you, hey, I felt like I was abducted last night. And I want to talk about real fast, and then we're going to close this out on this subject. But when I was leaning forward, you said, what did you say that was like to you?
Yeah, it was like your arms your arms were bound, and you were leaning forward, like they had you maybe dangling, and you were leaning in a forward position. So I'm trying to explain as far as like if someone has their arms harnessed from the ceiling, and they're tired, and they would lean forward. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, because that's what it felt like. It literally felt like that. And it's funny because she tells me this, and then I'm telling her, my arms, are really, really sore. Nothing else is sore, just my arms, predominantly my shoulders. They just felt, my shoulders and my wrist felt like they were ripped out of the sockets. But I don't have, and I looked all over, I don't have any bruises, I don't have any lashings or anything. There's been times I've woken up and I've had scratches and things on me. I don't know where the hell they've come out from or whatever. But this time there was nothing. So it tells me that, once again, here we are, 1010 and Rad-X are connected in another thing for a obvious reason. Now, one other thing I want to bring up, guys, we're going to close this part of the video out, and we're going to move on to what happened in Utah, was after 1010 told me about looks like ribs were wrapped around me, and I figure, okay, yeah, that's bat wings, because that's what the Draconian looked like, and she said about the tail, and all those things made sense. I was like, okay, so that's how I narrowed it down and figured out it was Draconian. And I've been looking for footprints that are like the ones in my school ever since 2017. I only found one print one time, and I'm sure you guys have already seen that in the one video where I show the evidence. But just the other day, like 2 days ago, I saw a thing come up about the Jersey Devil. And I was like about to turn it off, and then they were showing the footprints on this roof. And lo and behold, and they were talking about the Jersey Devil, and I'm like, it's the Draconian. It's Draconian. And those footprints, if you look, and I'm going to make a video about this later on, about the Jersey Devil, which is not a devil, and they kept calling it a beast, which is not a beast. It's a being that is far more advanced. That's good for the Draconian, for them to believe that, for them not to look for the portal, because obviously there's a portal there. There's footprints on that roof that are identical to the Draconian's footprints in my skull. So now I'm definitely looking further into that. So anyhow, I think that's about it that we're going to talk about with the whole dream thing. Did you have anything else you want to add about what happened in the dream, or anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to tie that part up, I know in the evening, after you said you thought you were abducted, I know I sent you another text message, I think, before bed, tying the two things together. Because even as we were talking during the day, it was like neither one of us really put the two and two together. And I was thinking about it later on. And then that's when I texted you about it. And you were like, wow. And I know we talked about it again the next day.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it was you. You tied the two and two things together, and you told me about it. Yeah, it wasn't until later on in the evening. Like, we talked about it throughout the day, but it takes a little bit for us to get all the evidence together, get all the clues together, to get a plausible conclusion of what happened.
Right. And another thing was, and I know we both talked about it, we were both really tired. And we went to bed. I mean, I went to bed at a decent time. I thought I slept. And the same for you. But that day, we were, you were exhausted and I was exhausted. And I'm like, there's no reason why I should be exhausted. And you're like, there's no reason why, I should be exhausted either. So that was kind of like another thing that kind of tied it together, thinking about it later and then talking to you about it, pieced it all together.
I was out for the count the whole day. Like I was done. There was like the whole day I did nothing but try to recover from injuries that I know that I did not sustain consciously at any time, throughout the week. And then the bizarre thing is as much pain as I was in, guys, and she will tell you, like, I was in some excruciating pain. The very next day, it was gone. Like, and she's like, how do you feel today? And I was like, it's gone. And I've had strained muscles and things that have been pulled, and stuff. And it takes at least 4 or 5 days. It was gone the very next day. The next day I was good. I was feeling strong, and I feel strong now. But yeah, and that's just, and I wouldn't say it was a dream, because it damn sure wasn't a dream. It's just that they come and get you in the middle of the night is what happens, and then they wake you up to force you to watch something that's happened to me, because for some reason we are definitely connected. And just so you guys know, she is all the way in Florida, and I am all the way in Cleveland, Ohio. So we're definitely not even nowhere close. So when you hear us talking about waking up, going to sleep and waking up around the same time, like I told you guys before, it's very weird. We've had this connection before we even actually start talking to each other, that we realize that we do a lot of things very, very similar, almost like having a twin. And then you find them, and then you're like, oh my God, I do the same thing. Do you feel like that too?
I do. It's almost freakish.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's definitely weird. So anyhow, all right. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the main topic. Reason why you guys are here, which is to hear more about what happened in Utah. So anyhow, so we're gonna talk about the gatekeeper. So when 1010 and I first was contacted by the gatekeeper, she told us, like, she started saying things that me and 1010 were already talking about. In other words, me and 1010 had already met first, and we were talking back and forth, and then the gatekeeper contacted me, and then she started telling me things, but she was saying some things she was saying that was like, wow, that's the same stuff I was just saying to 1010. But we know now why, because, the gatekeeper's not who she says she is. She works for one of the alphabet agencies, and they're obviously monitoring all of me and 1010 stuff. In fact, we know because we've gotten feedback a lot on our phones. Wouldn't you agree to that?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, before all that happened, before Utah happened, I never got feedback and crazy things happen on my phone like that. I don't know if you have 1010, but I've never had anything like that happen. And then after Utah, it just started happening like a lot.
Yeah, sometimes like when we're talking, especially when we're in a deep conversation, all of a sudden there'll be a noise and then our phones will cut off. And some people will say, well, that's bad service, but it happens every time when we're having certain conversations.
Certain conversations, we'll be talking about something. We know it's something that they don't want us to talk about, and it's like they cut our lines and they just shut us off right then and there. And the first 2 or 3 times, we didn't think nothing of it, but then we started realizing there was a pattern. Hey, when we start talking about certain things, all of a sudden our phones are freaking shut off. And we get like this weird feedback noise, like I get it and you get it. That doesn't happen when I talk to anybody else on the phone.
Yeah, I don't have that problem.
Only when I'm talking to you. It's almost like they're, when they're monitoring both of us talking back and forth, they're monitoring our conversations, and it's like they're trying to tell us to shut up about certain things. Wouldn't you agree to that?
Yeah. Be quiet and change the topic. Move on to something else.
Exactly. Yes. So anyhow, so we'll get back to the gatekeeper. So she gets in touch with me, and then she starts telling me like all these things that me and Tintin are talking about, and I just thought really that the gatekeeper was another, like I was like, wow, here's another person, right? Like, because then all of a sudden me and Tintin start connecting on this crazy level, and I thought, oh my God, here's another person that I'm connecting with, and I thought, okay, so the things are starting to happen now. Maybe more people are going to come forward, but it was just the 3 of us, and what happened is the gatekeeper was monitoring our stuff, our conversations. And then she was injecting herself to kind of mimic what we were saying to make us feel comfortable. And then she made her way to speaking with you because I was like, oh, well, you know, you'd love to meet Tintin because she believes and says the same things you're saying. And that's not what it was. She just tricked us right into the conversation. So then I connected you and the gatekeeper together. Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, I do. I think it was like a couple weeks after we initially started talking. And I do remember asking you when you were talking to her, like when she was saying certain things to you, I was like, were these things that you prompted her, like somehow were you asking her the question, like, you know, to try to see if she had the same thoughts and feelings as we did? And you're like, oh, I can't remember, you know. It just seemed like a lot of conversations. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, for me too, it's like it wasn't a natural conversation that you would have with someone that you're connected with or like in a friendship with. It seemed very scripted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it was things that me and you have been talking about. Or just it just seemed like it was just, but both of us felt like, oh wow, we have another person here we're connected to. Like we're both excited about it, right?
Yes.
Yep. In the beginning, we had no idea. We had no idea.
Yeah, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. Absolutely not.
So then the gatekeeper tells me that she has all this land out in Utah. And that it's across from this old military base, and they say there's still things that go on there that's underground or whatever. But she said that on her land, there was a portal that she drove through, and she popped up somewhere else. And I really didn't put any stock to it because I was just thinking, you know, people driving through portals, it's really not really my thing. I don't understand how the electronics and all that go through. I can understand how a flesh and blood, a human could just go through. But the whole thing with a whole vehicle going through, the story sounds kind of weird, so I didn't really get too far involved with it. And I think you remember that too, don't you, Tintin?
Yeah, I do. I didn't think much of it because, to be honest with you, sometimes when she tell me the story, I get confused. So I just kind of took it as, well, that was her experience, and there wasn't really any proof of it happening. So it was just more kind of like a personal experience.
And she was by herself, and we definitely, neither one of us really thought too much into it. But then, as I was looking more into the footprints and all this stuff that happened with me and in the dirt and stuff, and I asked the gatekeeper, hey, can you send me a picture of the cave that's there? And because she said there may be a portal and there's a cave there, and I was more interested in the cave, and she kept saying that it was the tail of the dragon. Do you remember that when she said that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, the tail of the dragon. That's what she said. She said that a remote viewer all the way in Europe somewhere told her that her property that she has, that the tail of the dragon is a way into the underworld or something like that, or something. I can't remember what it was, but at first I didn't put too much more stock into it. But then I asked her. I said, on a hunch, I said, hey, can you send me pictures of what? And the dirt was almost identical to the dirt on the floor in my school. Oh yeah, I watched the thing on the video of Land of the Lost, and come to find out there's a cave that they go into, and that's how they go into a portal to another world. And there was also some water there and stream, and I asked her about the conditions of the place there, and she said, yeah, that stuff's there. But remember, didn't you say something about about her right away? She sent us a map or something?
Yeah, right away she sent this really long email, and she would talk about how she didn't want anyone to really know about the property, but she sent us a map, a drawing with coordinates and everything to this property. So it was kind of counterproductive, I guess, or
it was way too trusting. Way too trusting in the beginning when we didn't even really know her. We're two strangers on the internet, and we didn't really know her. And like you said, she said that she didn't really want anybody to know about this place, but then she wanted us to come out there right away. Right,
and sent us the map with the coordinates and everything.
Okay, so now I'm going to skip past the part where I talk about all the stuff that happened for us to going out there and all that, because you guys already know all that stuff if you watched the video about going to the portal. What I want to talk about now is when me and 1010 did get out there, there was, the moment I met the gatekeeper, I knew something was wrong. So up until then, 1010 will tell you, I talked to her a lot and stuff. You know, and once I got there, and then 1010 got there, I knew right away when I met the gatekeeper that something was completely wrong, something was off. And then you realized that the next day you had said something to me.
Yeah, it was just a lot of different things that she said that made me think that she wasn't who she said she was. And there was a certain situation, I won't say what was that happened, but she trusted me with something that I didn't have a license for. I've never.
Oh no. Let's just say it.
Okay.
When me and 1010 got out there to this site, neither one of us owned a gun. She doesn't own a gun, and I don't own a gun. But the gatekeeper showed up with a couple of guns, didn't she?
She sure did, and she was like, "Here's a gun for you to have or to use because, I want to make sure that you're safe." And honestly, it made me unsafe holding it because I don't know how to shoot a gun. I don't have a license to shoot a gun. So like, why would you give me a gun if I have no experience with it?
What kind of gun was it? Like a 9mm or something? We don't even know what kind of gun it was. That's how absurd it was.
Yeah, I don't even know what kind of gun it was.
Yeah.
Because I don't know much about guns.
Fully loaded.
So.
Yeah.
And
then,
with a scope on it, or a laser. It had a laser on it, so you couldn't miss the target.
So let's talk about some other oddities that she was doing that we were just like, there is no way this person's not who's. She showed up with this brand new vehicle. Talk about that too.
Yeah. So originally, she said to me that she had a Chevy Malibu, and she would bring the Chevy Malibu out there to the property. And even for you, Rat, trying to drive out there in your van, it was terrible. Like, the road was terrible. So the fact that you would bring your car out there, without any type of trailer, because apparently she would spend time out there alone camping on her property.
But we know that that's a lie.
Yeah, there's no way possible, because she came and she had this brand new SUV, like a 4-wheel drive, it was beautiful or whatever.
She got it the day before we showed up.
Yep, the day before. And she got a trailer to put all her stuff in.
That she just rented.
She got this large tent, and she couldn't even put the tent together. Like, I had to put the tent together for her because she physically wasn't able to do it. So certain things, these certain situations, it's like if you're out here spending the night by yourself, you can't hardly lift anything or put a tent up, then there's obviously, some issues here.
Yeah, she was telling us that she's been staying out there and she's been doing all those things. But then that night, the first night that we got out there, she was completely unprepared for a lot of stuff. It was like her first time, just like it was our first time. But yet she was telling us that she owns this property and she's been out here, many times by herself at night. And we just don't believe that there's no way possible, because she couldn't do any of those things by herself.
Right. And she wasn't prepared for how cold it was outside. She was like, "I'll just sleep outside in the tent." And I'm thinking, it's freezing. Like, I don't know anybody that would want to do that. I would sleep in the car too. But yeah, definitely there were some real oddities, how she physically wasn't able to do certain things. She spent most of the time in her vehicle.
Talking to people on the phone. Like, she would, guys, listen.
Calling,
she would tell us that she was
talking constantly.
Yeah, she was going to talk to remote viewers. Who says that, like, she knows we're out there trying to find a portal. She brings me and 1010 out there to find this portal. And every time we turn around, she's constantly saying she's got to get in her car and use her phone. And she's talking to her remote viewers. And she has these remote viewers at her whim at any time. And she's constantly having to go back and forth with them while she's interacting with us while we're out there at a portal. That screams government all day long. Nobody would do that. Nobody normal
Yeah.
would do that. It just don't. And then there was another thing too. When we first got there, remember she said that she got a raise? Do you remember that?
Mhm. I thought it was quite peculiar that she would be getting a raise, but it kind of makes sense. Like, she was successful at getting both of us out there to the portal. So they looked at that and they said, you know what, we'll give you more money. And she had, like I said, this beautiful SUV. And she was, you know, we were putting all kinds of stuff in there and driving it. She was driving it pretty aggressively, like it didn't matter, if that makes sense. Like, when you buy a new car, you don't want to treat it like whatever. You know, you want to baby it, the inside and the outside. And one thing that she did tell me, which I thought was interesting, because she always kind of made it seem like she was this, you know, like a single mom. She had difficult times, but her favorite car was an Audi. And I remembered looking at the Audi, and its like base price was like in the 50s. So, you know, like, there were certain things where I was just kind of like, this is not adding up. Is that your recollection too?
Yeah, I felt like that too. And when you speak about being a single mother, that's another thing too. Like, her whole family background thing that she was saying, like, about her son was like in the Air Force, and that she had her sister-in-law worked for FEMA and had it out for her. So she always had to be careful about things because, you know, the land that she got was through because her husband had previously passed away, and she shouldn't have got that land, and the family was angry about it. Like, there's just like all this like negative, but also this very like government heavy type feel to the whole thing. And then you noticed something about her phone and her daughter. Talk about that too. Another thing that we were like, that's not correct.
Yeah, when her daughter would call, it would be her full first and last name. And I know, at least for me, like, if family members call, like, I don't have them in my phone as their first and last name with a description of what they are, like daughter. And a lot of times she would say that her daughter was tall, like I am, that she was naturally strong, which is something that I am. I'm naturally strong. And bring up certain things like her daughter and her family situation, kind of similar to mine, trying to like make a connection with me on that level. And it was very convincing because, unfortunately, I can be pretty naive and trusting at times because I want to see the good in people. But, you know, after all this happened, I noticed too, and Rat also pointed it out, like, she would say subtle things about Rat to me, and it would make me question, you know, like, what I thought or about
you and I's connection. Like, she was yes, trying to drive a wedge. She literally was trying to drive a wedge between you and I by saying things to you but then she would turn around and come back to me in front of you and say these things where she was trying to stroke my ego, and I already knew who she was before she even got to this point, guys. Like, I knew that I knew things were off and wrong right off the rip. So she was trying to play you against me, and then she was also trying to play us up and try to work her way in.
And the one thing too that bothered me is that she wouldn't look at you in the eyes or in the face. And she had a lot of things to say to you, but when someone doesn't look at someone in the eyes, then that kind of tells you like their intention, you know, that they don't really care for you. They don't like you in essence, or they're repulsed by you.
But yet she got us to come out there to her property by herself. She brings guns. She even tried to tell me to pick up the gun. Remember that when, you know, and I was just like, I kind of held it in a way where I couldn't leave my fingerprints on stuff, because a lot of things seem very, very off, very strange. And you're right. She could not look me in the eye when she would say things like when she was trying to stroke my ego, saying that I was the Scorpion King and that the remote viewers are telling her all these good things about me, and I'm very powerful and stuff, and I just don't know my limits yet, and all these things. But she would say those things out of the side of her face and not forward looking at me, forward speaking. So it was very, we could tell, right? We could tell at that point, at least you could, you're like, wow, this is really, really off.
Yeah, because that's something that I do look for, because I know, like, especially for certain people that are in my life, I've seen people not look at them in the eyes, and that's something that I always pay attention to, and it bothers me a lot. And it shows me a lot about someone and how they feel about you. You know, if you can't look at someone in the face, I don't like that.
And it just didn't add up with all the trust that she was having to be out there. Guys, this land, there is nobody around for miles, and it's really hard to get back there. If you got hurt back there, you're not going to get an ambulance ride for a long time unless they helicopter your ass out of there. It's literally in really out of the way. It's not an easy place to get to.
Yeah, and one other thing that we noticed is that if there was any car activity, it was around the property. It wasn't anywhere near where we were situated. It was almost like it was a no-go zone from the get-go. Like, people that live there, they probably don't drive in that area because they're not allowed. Because the property over by the cave is not owned by, it's owned by the government. I looked it up in the county files. It's property of the U.S. government. And also, I know you wanted to touch on the cows.
Yeah, and even the weird part is when she did take us back to the spot where the cave is, she was telling us about there's cows that come down into that area, and there's no way possible, right?
We didn't think anything of it.
Didn't think anything of it. But we were just talking today, and we just figured this out. Like, there's no way, because the way, guys, where this cave is, where the portal is at, there's really 360 degrees all the way around. It's like a dome deep down inside. You can't just stumble across this place. You have to go through a very tight path to get back through here, and then you're in a complete domed area where it's perfect area for there to be a portal. It's perfectly set up so that way the reptilians or whatever beings are coming from that portal can come and go in that area. But yeah, the whole thing with the cow shit that we saw there, and she was telling us about the cows, it didn't make sense how they got there. But now today, me and you were talking about it, and we were saying, oh my God, they were bringing the cows there for the beings that are in the portal, because why the hell else, because when I was talking about reptilians and how they're meat eaters, and then you said, yeah, they were bringing the cows there to feed them to try to get the reptilians to come out.
She was saying that the cows are able to scale this wall of rocks. And I'm going to tell you that any person, any animal, no matter how skilled you are, it looked impossible. I don't know why we didn't think of it earlier. I don't think we thought anything of it. It was just like, and the footprint for the cows, it stopped right over there by the portal. Like, it didn't go any further. And there's no way that they could go up and down. It's a one-way street, that canyon.
There's no way a cow would wander back there because it's a narrow path.
No, it's too dangerous.
It had to be led back there, and either as an offering or as bait to try to get the reptilians to come out through the portal, so that way they can capture them, try to find where the portal is. They did not know that stone where I found the portal, they did not know that was a portal. They literally thought it was in the cave somewhere. But I did remember something, and I think you remember it too. There were no bones from any cows back there, but she said that predators were getting those cows. Remember, she told us that specifically?
She did. Yeah, and there was no bones. The only remnants were the hooves and the cow's excrement. And that was pretty much littered. It was like they do it probably almost every day, I think. Would you say so, based upon the amount of prints?
There was a lot of cow shit back there and a lot of hoof marks from cows. But there is, the way you got to get back there, guys, I'm going to say it again, there's no way possible cows would have wandered in there. And then if you look out all the way around, and you can see for a few miles, because it's just all barren when you come out of the cave and go around the other way, other than going down to the cliff where the water is, that there was anywhere. Did you see any cows out there at all? I didn't see a damn thing, but yet it seems like there's
Never
supposed to
saw
be
a
these
cow.
cows wandering back there often, and there was shit that was fresh back there.
Like I said, it was almost like they did it every day. And then there was something that I noticed on the third day, which none of us saw. You and I, we didn't see it the 2 days that we were out there. And supposedly no one else was supposed to be out there, just, you, me, and the gatekeeper. I looked at you and I was like, what is this altar? And it was like someone burned tobacco or something there. And that's what I noticed on the third day. I don't remember. Do you remember if the gatekeeper said anything about it?
Yeah, she said, there was tobacco and some other, it was a ritual thing, guys, that was being done back there. It was like some kind of weird ritual thing that was being done back there in front of the cave door, not the portal. It was behind the portal because they had no idea where the portal was. They thought it was through the cave somewhere, but there was a little ritual thing back there, and I said something to her. I said, there's this weird stuff back here, and she said, oh, me and one of my friends came back here and we did this. We set that up back there. And it's just weird. It's just stuff that me and Tintin are not into. We're just not into that type of stuff. We don't sit around trying to do seances or summonings and in fact, all this alien stuff didn't really come about for us until me in 2017 and Tintin until 2019, 2020.
Yeah, and it was odd to me that we noticed it the third day. So it means they came out after that.
Yeah, right. So it's like they came out there, and the whole thing was a lot of stuff that she was saying really did not add up. There was a lot of things that were broken, a lot of stuff that we definitely know that there is the Green River abandoned military base right across from where the portal is. It literally is. If you were up on top of where the thing is over there on that base and you look down, you'd be able to see it not really into exactly where the portal is, but you'd be able to see the pathway going back to where the portal is, because it's closed off. You can't see back there. You have to take the path to go back there. So and like Tintin said, the gatekeeper, we looked up and her first and last name, like you said, does not match up to the last name of the person's name on the land that we stayed on. But which was another thing too that we noticed was off. But also where the cave is, and I had asked the gatekeeper when we were there, I said, do you own this part of land here to where this cave is? And she said, no, actually I own a little bit back away from it. I own over here. I'm pretty sure I asked her who owns that, and she said she didn't know. But however, Tintin later on looked it up and found out that the government owns that part, and she was okay with going over there messing around, doing all this stuff on the other, where this cave is, where this government land is, knowing that doesn't belong. If she would have had known that part of the land belonged to the government and all that stuff, and she wants us over to try to find this portal. But we were going to close this out real fast, guys, because we're running out of time. But it was very bizarre, because the moment that we found the portal, her eyes got big, almost like at first she wasn't sure if she believed that we really had this gift to find this portal. And when I said, you're the navigator, you got to find the way in. I found the portal, you got to find us a way in. And you confirmed that was a portal. All of a sudden, the gatekeeper's eyes got big, and she was ready to call it a day. There was nothing else. That was all she needed to see. She was not interested in any of us getting into the portal. In fact, she was the only one out of the three of us who was always kind of like stepped back and kind of like, okay, well, Rad-X can go in, and maybe Tintin will follow in after you, and then I will probably go in. But we always felt like she was never going to go in that portal. But once she found out for sure that we found the portal, she was pretty much done. And then after that, the very next day, she completely made a 180 on us and said that she had to go and that we're going to close everything down, as if they got what they needed, as if the government got what they needed. They needed to know where the portal was. We showed them the portal stone. And that was it. And then she said that she was just going to let me go back there by myself into this ravine. But before she said that, guys, she told me that she saw some hunters that morning. And when she went back to her hotel that night, she came back, and in the morning she said that you know, it's very weird. There were some hunters out this morning, and you could tell they're hunters. They had their rifles and stuff on her. And I said, I mean, is this hunting season? She said, no, that's the weird part. It's not hunting season. So I was definitely felt like I was being set up. Like they were going to get me to go back there by myself. She told 1010 to stay in the car with her, and that she wanted me to go back there by myself. And I can't tell you guys all this stuff, but there are things that I know that I can't tell you guys things, but I knew I wasn't supposed to go back there. Because I'm really prepared to meet Oblivion, so I don't care. Even if I went back there and they just would have shot me or whatever, or whatever would have happened, I was prepared. I am always prepared to meet Oblivion. I don't care. That's not going to be the worst thing to ever happen to me. I really was gung-ho and wanted to get into that portal, but I can't tell you guys everything, and I was, you know, directed to go a different direction, which is the reason why you guys are getting this story right now. Anyhow, with that being said, she, at the very end, after all that was done, and I changed my mind, and you were heading back to Florida, I was heading back to Ohio. There was a lot more stuff too, guys. We just don't have time to get into all the things and all the weird stuff. Like, one more thing. When she said, when me and you were doing our interviews of what happened when we were there on the site, she wanted to do an interview, and I said, and she said, but don't post mine online. I don't want anybody to hear it. And remember, I kept trying to get her to say, you know, well, what's the point? Why do an interview? That was weird, wasn't it? She wanted me to record her talking about her experience, but yet she didn't want anybody to ever see it.
And I said that you would most likely, like, you could change the sound of our voice, or, you know, like, remove any kind of personal information, you know, keeping people from knowing where the property is. And she was always very concerned about people finding the property and coming to see it. But she was willing to share that with us, and she's had other people come to the property.
But hold on, she was so worried about other people coming to the property, but that property where the portal is belongs to the government. So how would she be worried about that? That's another thing. It does not make sense. Another thing that didn't add up. And doing a video, she wanted me to video her testimony, which, guys, I'm in possession of her full testimony of what she saw with the portal, the whole thing about going out there and all of that stuff. I have all that on film. I've recorded her stuff, but she said she didn't want me to share that with anybody or put it out there. That's just freaking bizarre. It doesn't even make any sense. Unless they're trying to set me up in some kind of way. Here, go in the tent, Rad-X, and go grab my gun for me and bring it out here. Oh, Rad-X, go back there to where the portal is by yourself. You know, oh, Rad-X, do this video of me and don't let anybody see it. Keep it to yourself. A lot of stuff was just very weird. And then the other thing is that she tried to add a lot more separation. She tried to set me up with someone else, some remote viewer that she wanted me to start being in contact with, and then she tried to get you to go off by yourself with her later on in the future. So she was trying to completely separate us.
Yes, because apparently we weren't the first two, like a male and a female that had gone out to the portal. There had been others that had gone there before, and apparently they failed. Oh yeah, she was trying to set, you know, Rat up with another lady. And I don't mean like in a dating sense. I mean like it's pairs. You know, for some reason it's a male and a female that they have go out there to try to find the portal, open the portal, whatever it is. And a lot of people, like, will go back to that altar. They were using the spiritual aspect of it. So there was this female that she wanted to introduce to Rat. And she was like a remote viewer, spiritualist or whatever. And she had an experience from 1972 in regards to her dad. Now, why she wouldn't bring that up beforehand, and now all of a sudden she wants to bring it up now, it was just kind of, it was interesting. It was almost like they wanted to see if they could get any more information, or I guess break our connection even further, is my guess, because we were obviously able, you found the portal, I confirmed it. We obviously work well as a team. We're not spiritual people like that. We don't delve into all that stuff. Like, we're matter of fact. We like to look at the evidence, and we also like to use our intuition. But it was just a lot of different things that had us question.
Yeah, because, yeah, you're right. We like to, you and myself, our minds work. We look at logical and factual evidence, and we just don't go off of mystical, wishful, hopeful things. We have to see evidence. But then that was like one of the things, speaking of evidence, when we were out there, kind of felt like she treated you like you weren't really that important until you found, till I said, you are the navigator. Find the way in, right? So what did you think when she, how did you feel about that? Like, did she really, until that point, didn't you feel like she didn't think that you really were as significant?
Yeah, looking back on it now, I think that she just thought that I was some female there along for the ride. And I think that she was surprised, especially when I confirmed the portal with the application, finding the Big Dipper on the portal with the Alcor star, like verifying that her eyes were huge when that happened. In that moment, I think she realized that I wasn't just there on vacation, like I was there on a mission, in whatever fashion, my purpose. And in that moment, that was my purpose after you were like, find the portal.
One in a billion odds, guys. There's no way that star would have lined up perfectly at that very moment from the beginning of the whole thing, with the whole us coming together to come out there at that very moment. I said that. You pull out the phone. Before that, you never pulled out your phone and looked and checked for the Alcor star. It was at that very moment. It's just not possible that was by chance, just like 1972 and 2020 and all these other things that are not by chance. They are designed for a certain reason, and we are part of that purpose. And the thing is, and I don't want to cut you off, but she had the same freaking app on her phone. She's the one who told us about the app. So she could have pulled the app up and she could have looked for it before you. And she didn't. You were the one who pulled it up. She knew about the app a lot longer than we did, and she just told us the night before. So she was there sitting there with that app on her phone, and she did not pull her phone out, and she did not confirm the Alcor star because she has no purpose. She works for the government, and she brought us out there to try to find a portal. That's why she could never find it, and she had to keep bringing these other couples and these other pairs of male and female to find the freaking portal, and they all failed. And like she kept calling back and forth to remote viewers. Who does that? Nobody does that. It's not by chance that you found the Alcor star. You have a specific meaning or reason to be there.
Kind of touching back on her separating us. I think in that moment too, towards the end, it was like, okay, you need to go back home. He needs to go back home. There are probably other portals out there that you and I will be able to find and confirm based upon evidence. And I don't think the government would want that to happen at all.
Yeah, there's a couple of portals that you and I already know about. Like me and you, we talk a lot, but we talk in a lot of coded stuff when we're on the phone, so they don't really know. I mean, maybe they do, but we try to keep them guessing because me and you both know of a couple of places where there are portals. One we just talked about the other day, and then we talked about one a few weeks ago, that we know where they are, but we're not going to do anything right now until they meet our demands, right? Because there's no point in us bringing them and giving them more portals, giving them more access to wherever these portals are going to. I don't even care what happens because that's between them and the reptilians or the draconians who have those portals. If they go where they're not supposed to go, then hey, they're gonna have to deal with that when they get there. They're not invited. You and I are invited to these portals. We're supposed to go there. This is what we're supposed to do. This is our purpose. We're driven, and the beings are doing things to make sure that you know what's happening to me and you relay information back to me, because things are happening to me that I'm not conscious of for good reasons. And I know that I'm evolving, and there may be something that's happening, you are evolving too. And there's other things too, guys. And before we get going here, there is a lot more that you guys don't know about 1010. She has also some other things that give her some serious significance, some really important purpose, that the reason why the Draconians and the Reptilians chose her to do what she's doing, and we cannot tell you guys that. We will never tell you. It's not, we just can't, there's information we can't share with you guys. There's things that we talk about amongst ourselves that we know about that have happened and that are happening, but we can't tell you guys everything. So the stuff that we are sharing with you, take it in, learn from it. Try to understand what's happening and what's to come in the future. Guys, she has a channel. It's 1010 The Navigator, and we're going to start trying to get more videos up on her channel where she's going to be doing stuff about the Bible, and we're going to be showing it in a different perspective because, you know, she's very biblical, you know, literate and stuff, and we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with that and giving a different perspective on that has to do with aliens. And some of the stuff you already heard and stuff you already know, but we're going to be sharing a lot of things with you guys that you have not heard. I guarantee you have not heard the stuff that we're going to be talking about because we're coming from a reptilian's perspective of a different way of looking at things and what happened with the Bible and the reason why some of those stories are the way that they are. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Can't wait to get started. I know you have a 300-year-old Bible that we're going to be using.
Yep, I have a 300-year-old Bible and we'll be using that. All right, guys, and
with that, guys, enjoy the rest of your time.
Welcome. You can call me Radix, the ultra neutral, the one from 72. Doing more and more research and more digging, it now is more apparent to me that we are in a natural reality dealing with an alien species that has hacked time, and because of that they have left a huge piece of evidence, which is the year 1972 and how that year actually connects to the year 2020, and how I am the only person in the world that is educating people and bringing the message and was able to predict the election in 2020 through great detail, as well as other predictions that also came true that have to do with looking at the year 1972 and the time hack and how it affected the year 2020 and will lead us into civil war as well as a galactic war that is clearly upon all of us that is coming down. And you'll see that evidence by coming here and looking at the evidence that I present. I'm also going to be teaching you things about how flying saucers work, things about different alien species like the reptilians, the Anunnaki, and about the Greys, because I myself had a reptilian experience where my mind was unlocked, and that is one of the great reasons why I'm able to present all of this knowledge, because up until the year 2017 when my mind was unlocked, not long after that I was starting to able to see the holes in the reality, see all the connections of the things that were going on that led to a time hack, which tells us learn from them and push forward as humanity and not to suppress one another and suppress our own species. So if you're ready to have your mind unlocked, if you're ready to receive the message that nobody else in the world is talking about, if you're ready to see the truth, if you're ready to understand and look at the evidence, then welcome to Rat X Files.